character's so different. There's like let's see, like Oru. We were just talking about the fortune teller, ball-shaped guy.
Mm-hmm.
He had a lot of inspiration from like a Cheshire Cat,
Ah, yeah.
partly visually and just kind of like the way
Yeah.
that inspiration trickled into like his VO as well. He actually kind of sounds like Cheshire Cat. He got that creepy thing, and like some animations are just kind of like, yeah, just kind of like zipping. Like he's mysterious. He's definitely otherworldly.
I know, like, obviously Gigantic's been going on for a while, and you joined at some point, but like,
Yeah.
if you can share, if you can't, that's fine. Like the kind of whimsical nature of where the animation style kind of originated from, like was that somebody's vision, or was that kind of like, hey, we're pushing this, we should kind of go this way, and we're finding that it's very appealing, or yeah, I guess just curious about the landing on this kind of more
We've
whimsical
never
style.
really. I mean, you're right. I'm not. I mean, I joined Gigantic after it was somewhat established, like in 2015, and we kind of like took it to completion. But it's never really. Yeah, we've never really acknowledged a specific animation inspiration, to be honest.
Okay.
Like on certain characters, man, what? I mean, there's lots of anime stuff that comes up, and Saturday morning cartoons is kind of the interesting one that we throw around sometimes, like make it like a Saturday morning cartoon. Uh,
Cool.
Other games,
Hmm.
freaking League of Legends,
Yeah.
like it's been an inspiration.
Yeah, just yeah, I mean they're super appealing. It's just that's cool. I mean, just kind of that's cool that they kind of draws from a lot of different places. It's just
Absolutely,
just
and that's an intentional choice to like not
yeah,
really commit to an inspiration for sure.
yeah. This one's from
And we're
Richard.
definitely always looking for diversity in animation styles between the characters. So
Oh, interesting. Okay. Um, yeah,
that's
that's
kind of
always a
a
challenge,
tricky
isn't it?
question, hard to answer in general.
Yeah. So the next question is from Richard. He says, "I myself am a step animator, step keyed,
Right
I
on.
would mention. Every time that I finish my blocking, I go to spline, and I end up doing the shot almost all over again.
Yeah, it's painful, right?
Unless I block the shot in twos. My question is, any recommendation to get this process more fluid or get the shot faster?" That's a good question.
It's very good. And you're right. The more you break it down, the like if you're on twos, basically if your things aren't flipping, you're pretty much done, right?
Yeah, yeah.
But
Um,
yeah, for me, I'm kind of a half-half. Like whether I start in stepped or start in splined. Like if I really know what I'm gonna do, sometimes I'll start kind of layered
mhm.
with splines. But if I'm exploring or if I like have to do some pushed poses and that are we have to kind of feel out, I'm definitely gonna be stepping it out.
So you said you generally are a step animator, or are you kind of more, or you just
Yeah, I think I'm about 50-50.
okay?
Yeah.
Um, yeah, that's an interesting question because it's um, for me most of the time, like when I run, I feel your problem here, Richard, because I feel that I'm the same way a lot of times. And sometimes I feel like when I am stepping stuff, and I don't usually step stuff, like I tend to spline more. But when I do step stuff, depending on the action, and I go into spline, and I've been there where I'm like, oh, I just need to do this again because like it's not, it totally fell apart. But
Yeah.
I feel like a lot of times my problem was that I didn't step it out enough, right? And because you're like, oh, this is this unforeseen thing, which tends to happen all the time, but like if you're just missing certain chunks of stuff, that's probably you need to go back to, which leads to the second part of his question, which is like it doesn't happen for him when he starts blocking in twos, which might be going on the other end of the spectrum, right? Which is like finding like a happy medium there. But
yeah. I mean, a lot of the times, I mean, especially for snappy actions, I'm stepping down to ones, honestly, on the fast moment. Like that's in my blocking. So it's really depending on how fast a thing is moving. And
yeah, I think for me,
I as well feel the pain.
Yeah.
It's just always trying to find that process, eliminating the redundancy or the what feels like a foundation that you're not benefiting from later on. But even when you end up redoing something, like you're accessing what you learned from posing it out initially.
Yeah, I try to keep it really fluid, where like I'm not in stepped blocking and then I'm not in spline. Like I'm kind of in both in a way. Like I'll, you know how you can right click on the Maya timeline and just convert to step keys.
Oh, you do the view as stepped?
Yeah, so I'll view as stepped, and then I'll start stepping, and then I'll kick it back to spline just to like smooth out something.
I've never actually used that workflow. I bet it seems really good. I don't know why I haven't.
Yeah,
I'm always like actually switching it to stepped and back.
Yeah, it has its advantages. Just kind of a quicker, I think. But like, yeah. So I kind of like jump back and forth, and I think I don't know. Maybe if this is helpful, maybe you don't necessarily need to think about it as like, oh, I'm in step mode now and gonna go to spline. Like think of it more like you're kind of you can spline it and then go back to step and see where you're missing things, and then maybe over time that'll help you improve like as you go in a way. So
I guess my short answer to it is like the answer is you do need to break it down more. But if you feel like you have to be on twos start to finish no matter what kind of action, I think you're breaking it down more than you need to. And just try to develop your instincts for where it needs a breakdown, where it doesn't.
Yeah, no, that's a good answer. Cool. Okay, we can kind of. This one's from Nikita, and says, "Not sure if you guys got this question yet, but what do you look for in demo reels, Kyle? What stands out to you?"
Oh, I would say what I generally it's hard to say like what's most important. It's I guess polish if I just want to list like every animation principle, to be honest, because they all really are important. But I guess like is there something about what the most common like thing I would critique is, though? I don't know. But yeah, I think of like polished stuff. Like, did someone like put in more love than is required in something? I think that would be kind of a reoccurring theme in my critiques of demo reels. Like you could polish this particular shot for like a couple of hours more and just like put a little bit more jiggle in that one spot, or make that impact feel a little bit juicier.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
I think if I was gonna do a short answer, I'd say polish.
Cool. Yeah. And then okay, this is a longer question, but we don't necessarily need to. I'll just kind of read it out. Question from Jeremy. I really want to animate for games. Is it wise for me to focus on that animation right from the start? Most openings where I am, where I see is for generalists, and it seems like the only way to get somewhere is if you know how to model and rig. Should I move, or should I gain more experience being a generalist first? It's always a tough question. But.
It's really hard to answer, honestly, like, because it's depending on the opportunity. Like certain opportunities, people will want a candidate solely for animation skills. In which case, it would be like, I wish I had spent all of my time only animating. But there's also opportunities where like they're not going to look at you if you know like yeah we really actually need someone who does rigging, you know, or some scripting. I don't know. There's like a variety of other skills they may end up wanting to roll in, but rigging is a common want. But yeah, I guess my advice is kind of depending on like how interested you are in rigging. I'd say if it's something you're really interested in, you should pursue that. And yeah, just like use it as like whether or not you're gonna benefit as an animator if you level yourself up in rigging, like just in being able to solve problems. Like you're working with someone else's rig, you can modify an arm that's not behaving the way you like.
Yeah.
Or in a production environment, like you can unblock yourself.
It sounds like he does have a passion for passion for animating for games, but
yeah,
the opportunities he sees are for generalists. So it's yeah. I wish I had a good answer for you, Jeremy, because for me, it's like you got to take what's in front of you in a way, and if those are the opportunities in terms of like generalist opportunities, and then you know, first and foremost for me is kind of like, you know, working and all that stuff, right? So, but in terms of moving and maybe going to more animation, you know, going to another city or whatever that has like you know, specifically animator spots, you know, that's
it can be hard to forecast, you know.
Yeah, hard to
what's going to be needed.
Yeah,
I mean, I guess at the end of the day, if you're working on one or the other, you're leveling yourself up.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not time wasted. But I understand your interest in deciding what's most important.
Yeah. Once you can follow up in the comment, Jeremy, and we can always take it offline, and maybe we can be more helpful. So,
yeah.
This one's from Michael. It says, "Hello, Jason and Kyle. What's up, Michael? Do studios hire people when their demo reel doesn't have categorized to the studio? And for example, can I get hired to a studio where most of their animation is in mocap when my demo reel is keyframed?"
I think yeah, specializing the work you present to the studio can be important. But if you don't have the variety of work, it's not really a big decision to be made. But maybe you can swap a shot out here and there just to, like, say someone only does mocap or like stylized keyframe animation, like favor one way or the other. Mm-hmm. It does help.
Yeah, I agree. A lot of studios will prioritize that. Some maybe like priority 1, some maybe priority 4 or whatever. But like, I am, you know, if you applied to, you know, a studio that makes Call of Duty with like, you know, kind of like a super cartoony animation, you still might get hired. But
I feel like if I applied to a Call of Duty game with the reel that I've posted publicly, like they're gonna be like, "Can you do realistic stuff?"
Yeah. They'll be like, well, it's clearly good animation, and they, depending on their mood that day, they may shoot you a test, right? Just to be like, okay, well, this person's clearly a good animator, but
sure. I think that's the way it would go. Yeah.
But then you never know. You catch people on the off day where they're just like, no, does this person know what we do here, kind of thing? So yeah. It's it can
sure, they're like,
you know, it shows,
or they question whether you're interested in their type of work if you haven't done it. Or
I think if you have the time for it, it's like you want to kind of tailor something that's going to appeal to them, right? Like if they're just you know, it's like it shows to me, if I'm on the hiring side, it shows effort, right? It's not just because to me it shows like when someone applies for something that's completely out of context to what we're doing. This may or may not be the case, but it feels like you've spammed your reel out to like a lot of different places, right? Because you're just kind of applying out of context. So it's I just offer that opinion because I feel like some studios do feel that way, right? They really want you to kind of like care what they're working on and at least get in the ballpark, right? So of what they're doing.
Yeah, within reason.
Yeah.
It's not realistic to make a whole new demo reel.
Right.
For any one studio. That's a lot of eggs in one basket.
Mm-hmm. And then we got a last question here, which follow up from Richard, which is like, you mentioned workflow. You mind me asking, what is your workflow for both of you guys? I guess we can kind of just quickly touch on it. I guess we kind of
I kind of touched on for animation workflow in the software, it's half the time stepped, half the time like starting in a layered fashion.
Mm-hmm.
And it's basically, I may have already gone into it, but it's depending on the business and my confidence level on something. If my confidence level is low, like I've never animated something like that. I feel like my poses are gonna like go out and in a bunch, so I definitely want to step this out.
Mm-hmm.
Or like if that is even like a small question in my mind, I'm gonna be stepping it. But if it's like it's a run cycle, I kind of know what he's gonna do. I know the cadence, and that's stuff that like I feel really comfortable like adjusting as a cycle. I'll probably do it in a layered fashion.
I'm curious, do you ever use a reference, shoot reference, anything like that?
Yeah, reference sometimes. I think for gigantic work,
Mm-hmm.
I think I've mostly not used reference, but it's definitely valuable sometimes. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if I know any animators who never use reference, but
Right.
it's sometimes, but sometimes like our stuff is just so wild that I just prefer to explore it.
Right.
Or if you're talking about shooting myself reference, it's what I'm.
Yes.
But like, I rarely do an animation for a new character without like endless like finding reference from like
Right.
inspiration, like movies, YouTube stuff,
Yeah.
Google image search.
Yeah.
Ask people, send me some images that you think represent this character. What pose stuff?
Yeah.
That kind of reference is present no matter what I'm doing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. For me, I touched on it as well, which is like sometimes I step, sometimes I spline, and I do tend to use video reference a bit more than maybe other people, especially even when I'm doing like kind of more stylized stuff. I like to know what the hips are doing for real and then push that in a way.
Once you've got your eye for it, like you can see the realistic thing and translate it.
Yeah, exactly. Like put my spin on it in a way.
Yeah.
That makes me.
And the fundamental body relationships are translatable.
I feel more comfortable when I'm using that process, but sometimes I'll have something in my head or something that I'm using as reference, like from another game or movie or whatever, and I'm like, okay, that's what I want, and I just need to put my own flavor on that, and I don't need to shoot reference. I'm just gonna kind of do that. So yeah. I forgot there's a question on Twitter actually, and this will be our last question, which is from Andrew, and he says, I'm a junior animator trying to get my first job. Is there anything beyond having a tight reel and continuously practicing to help? So he knows, obviously.
Yeah,
like,
tight reel's number one.
Yeah.
It sounds like cool. And yeah, keep leveling that up. Yeah, for getting noticed, I guess it could be two different questions. Like, what steps do you take toward getting noticed? What steps, like after you have an interview, how do you? Is another way to talk about it. I guess like in interview situations, it's being that likable guy, I suppose, and being enthusiastic, being flexible, as Jason mentioned, that's good. For like getting noticed, like I suppose networking stuff.
Yeah, that was going to be my answer, which is like, you know that you need to have a tie reel. You know you need to continue to practice. You've said that already. It's just like, other than that, it's like, I've seen how people get hired, and I've hired people that like just kind of put themselves out there in terms of getting more visibility, right? Just like posting forums, interacting with people, networking and stuff like that, and that can always be hard because it's like if you don't have any experience doing it, it can be really easy to come off as like too strong or whatever, or awkward in a way, and I've been there, trust me. But
but I mean like you asking this question right now, I think is a great step toward gaining your visibility. Like,
yeah, I mean he's already kind of like interacting.
And I'd say as far as reaching out to current professionals, I say go for it.
Yeah,
and depending on how much time they have to offer, will dictate how much attention you get. But I would never be turned off by someone reaching out.
Yeah, me neither. I'm just like people reach out a lot, and if you're sincere and it doesn't feel like you've spammed this email out to like 20 different animators, like you're sincerely like establishing a connection and just basically like not bombarding with like a wall of text. It's like I think just kind of keeping it simple like that.
Yeah, I guess initial point of contact, you want to ease into it.
Right. Just
But even if someone does write me a novel, I mean, it might take me a while to get back to them, but I love getting people or trying to help people out. Like if you PM me on Twitter or whatever, it's great.
Yeah, I feel like most people are very open to that, and I would say that's a great thing to do for Andrew, like you're asking. So yeah, that's I'm not going to go any further. I think we got a lot of really good questions. Really appreciate everyone posting these questions, and the whole reason why I like to kind of do this live thing is because we can answer people's questions and they can give us more context, or it feels like we're having a conversation more than just kind of like talking at someone.
Yep.
So
well, yeah, thanks a lot for having me, Jason. This has been really cool.
Yeah. Thank you. Thanks, Kyle, for coming on. And do you have anything you want to like? You're on Twitter, and is that kind of the best place to maybe reach you?
I would say Twitter. Twitter's great. Yeah,
Okay.
I'd say like a PM on Twitter, or definitely I'll follow you back.
Okay. All right. Well, like I said, I'm gonna jump into getting more into Anim Break stuff, and probably even try to bring back that animation challenge that I was doing.
Oh, yeah, that was really fun, man.
Yes. Well, I'll try to think of some stuff, and I still owe last time's winner like a critique, and I'll probably start getting back into live critique stuff too, because that's super fun for me. But yeah, really appreciate it, Kyle, and thanks everyone for watching.
Cool. Thanks, everybody.
All right. Thanks. All right. I think we are up and running here.
We're live?
Yes, I believe so. I think we're going to. I'll see if anybody pops in here and just kind of verify, but I'm pretty sure we're up. I'll bring up the. Yeah, I think we're good to go here.
All set.
All right. Yeah, Sam is Sam's in the chat. What's up, Sam?
Hey,
so,
Sam.
yeah. Welcome everyone to another Anim Break episode video interview here, and this is episode 6. And we are. I'm talking to senior animator Chris. Is it Goodall or Goodell?
Yeah, Goodall.
Goodall, Chris Goodall, senior animator at Ninja Theory. And where's Ninja Theory at? Up over in England?
It's in Cambridge in the UK.
Okay, cool. And you know, the whole purpose of these interviews is kind of get to know some game animators whose work I love and want to kind of chat with them, and I think people would want to hear from. So for anyone who hasn't checked it out, Chris has he's got his work on Vimeo. We'll loop through it here, but he's got his work on Vimeo and Twitter and stuff like that, and really cool stuff on Hellblade, and I want to get into that as well. But the whole kind of crux of this stuff of this interview is like, you know, telling, you know, professionals and students kind of how everyone kind of broke into the industry, and everyone kind of takes certain paths. So Chris, you want to talk about kind of how you broke in?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, forgive me if I ramble on a little bit about this.
No.
Right, so, I mean, my journey started the same as, I guess, the majority of animators. I saw Toy Story, I saw Jurassic Park. I was like, wow, I want to do that, like whatever that thing is that I watched. Apparently, it's a job and you can do it. So, yeah, I mean, I was always kind of like really into art and drawing and stuff as a kid. And, but yeah, I don't know. I kind of set myself on this path of, okay, I kind of just want to go in this area. All I knew was that it was just computers and art, and I didn't know anything else. So, yeah, I mean, I went through school, studied some art at college, and then decided that I found it was at the University of Bradford. It was a computer animation and special effects course where they kind of taught you a bit of everything. That I would say is quite generalist. It was I was still figuring out at that point that what I wanted to be. Like, you start figuring out that you can be a modeler, or you can be an effects artist, or you can do animation, or like, you know, and going to university and doing that kind of course is a great way to figure out, like, just try everything.
So was it a course or was it a program that was general? Kind of general CG?
I chose it because it had animation in the title. I was like, okay, I kind of want to do that, but I ended up doing a lot of other things. It's like, to get to the animation part, you have to be able to model and rig and texture, and then you create this horrible rig. It's like, cool, well, now let's do some animation. And obviously that's terrible as well. So that's kind of how it.
Was this in Cambridge?
No, so this was in Bradford. It's like in like the middle of England.
Okay.
Yeah, it's a bit.
So you just decided to go to kind of a local school where you grew up, and they happened to have a animation program.
Well, no, I'm actually from a city called Sheffield, and they didn't have anything anything to do with computer animation or anything like that there. So I had to find the nearest university, and there were basically 2 I could go to. So yeah, I picked that one. And yeah, so I guess towards the end of my course, I realized that my work was terrible. Having put my first demo reel together and seeing what was out there, I was like,
was that a self-realization, or? Yeah.
I realized before finishing my short film, and I was like, oh, what am I going to do about this?
So was that, sorry to kind of belabor it, but like you were kind of finishing it up, and then you like, because I've, you know, the reason I ask is I've had that moment too in school, and it's like, were you kind of just like looking online, and just kind of came across stuff and you're like, wait, this doesn't align with or match?
Yeah, I think first of all, I kind of compared my final year like student project, my animation project, to some that were done like by just other students and years before and stuff like that. And I was like, why is that stuff so good? Like, what, we've gone through the same course. Like, what did they do that I didn't do? And like, and it's not that I wasn't trying or anything. Like, I really worked hard and just trying to learn how to do this thing.
Why do you think that? I mean, I might be jumping ahead, but like, you know, you're working hard on it and stuff like that. Like, looking back on it, why do you think that, like, you weren't hitting what you wanted to hit? Was it, you know, the instruction, the
yeah,
just...
I think, yeah, it was I think it was a mixture of things. Like I said, it's kind of like it was quite generalist. So like, had it just been focusing on animation, like then I would have spent, you know, 2 years just animating basically.
Yeah.
So I got little animation time anyway. And when I did, it was with a horrible setup. You know, I never used a proper rig before. Like, you know, I've just set up my own IK controllers and things are flipping out everywhere and just, yeah, it was terrible. And also I didn't really know anything about animation principles. Like we had a really short class that lasted maybe like a month or so. It's like, hey, here are the 12 principles of animation, go and look at them. And I was like, okay, cool. There's this list and I don't know what any of these mean or how to implement them.
I see. So was the teacher like, because some schools like the teacher teaches like modeling, texturing, rigging, animation. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, it was that. Like, it's basically this whole thing. And so, yeah, after realizing my work was bad, I had my first reel together, which I didn't release on the internet, probably for the best. And so I left university, graduated. I got a good grade. Like on paper, it was great, but you know, you need a good reel to get a job. Yeah. So I decided that I would just work. I thought I would get a part-time job, and then I was just going to work, you know, 3-4 days a week, just on animating. And so I was online. I listened to every podcast. I signed up to everything, all the websites. I was just getting as much information as possible. And I remember finding the I can't remember what they're called. There's this. I remember watching a set of tutorials. Keith Langer. Langer tutorials. I remember finding those.
Yep.
And that was the day that I learned about arcs. And so I remember like I had like the acetate plastic sheet on my screen, and I was marking out with the pen, like, oh, draw an arc like this.
Yep.
And then I matched up to it, and then I played the animation back. I was like, wow, it's so smooth. Like that's how they do it. Like I really remember like learning arcs like very specifically. It's so funny.
Nice.
So yeah, so I spent basically, so I graduated in 2008. So from 2008 through to like late 2009, I just spent time working on a reel, which I sent out to a few places. I didn't really get much response. Like I went for like an interview at a VFX company in Sheffield, but I don't know, they're closed now. Like they didn't last very long. So like it was, I don't know, it was a bit weird. And yeah, I think I applied to Frontier as well, which is another company in Cambridge, and I got like an animation test, but I didn't pass. I was like, I had to use the biped rig, and I use Maya usually. Oh, the biped rig's in 3D Max. So it's like, hey, do you know how to use 3D Max? I'm like, maybe. So they sent me a test, and I was like, I don't know how to do any of this. So yeah, basically I just applied further and further away from my hometown, and then one day I was listening to a podcast, and it was the Reanimators podcast. I don't know if you ever... Yes. Shout
out to Mike Jungbooth and Ryan Duffin.
Yeah, like
I love that. I mean, I used to listen to it all the time. Yeah,
it's great. Mm-hmm. And so one day I was listening to this podcast, and they had a guest on called Espen, and Espen worked at Ninja Theory. I was like, Ninja Theory. I've never heard of them, so I went online, found the website, and careers, okay, go through. Oh, they're doing an internship. Great, I'll just apply for this. So I applied for the Ninja Theory animation internship. Within 2 weeks, they got back to me, and they offered me a position. It was crazy.
Yeah, that's cool.
Happened overnight like that. So yeah.
And then without a test, it was just straight up offer of an internship.
Yeah, well, the thing was like it was initially for 3 months, so I guess it's kind of like a 3 month test.
Okay, yeah,
You know?
makes sense. Yeah,
It's great. And yeah, so I went for in my interview, like they showed me it's kind of like the pitch for Enslaved.
okay,
What they were pitching to publishers, and like it was this awesome, like CG, like totally animated, like a minute or two, like maybe I think it was 2 minutes. I know it was a couple of minutes, but it was like a big cinematic piece.
Nice.
Just awesome stuff going on. And I watched it, I was like, wow. And like I remember like Monkey, like this, you know, the character Monkey and Enslaved. I just remember this like back shot of him and like all the muscles were flexing and stuff. And I was like, wow, this is awesome.
Nice.
I want to learn how to, like, I want to work here. So I went from not knowing Ninja Theory at all. Like I never played Heavenly Sword. And then I went for the interview and saw this. And I was like, wow, this is what I want to do. This is great.
Yeah.
And so yeah, I did a 3 month internship. And then towards the end, so we were a group of 7. So we were 7 animation interns, which all started at the same time.
Oh wow.
We lived in the same house.
Oh wow.
Like, the company had paid for this big house for us, so it was like this weird like university
Yeah.
thing going on. And then yeah, after 3 months, they decided that hey, we want to actually keep 4 of you for another 3 months. And then so 3 people had to leave. So it's like this weird elimination thing.
Right.
Where
Yeah.
4 of us
Voted out of
stayed
the
in
house. Yeah.
Yeah. And then so,
And everything's being recorded.
yeah. So we did this for 3 months, and yeah, during that time I got to when I started, I learned that they were doing DMC Devil May Cry in like the other wing, and I'm a fan of this game as well. Like I played the original, but it never even occurred to me that I'd be able to work on something like this in the UK.
Right. Yeah.
I thought I would have to go to Japan or something.
Yeah.
And, you know, and there it was. I was like, wow. It's like, okay, whatever happens, like I have to get a job here because I know I'm going to be missing out on working on this project.
Yeah.
It would haunt me forever.
Yeah. Oh man, that was I gotta say, like the DMC that you guys did is like one of my like top 5 favorite games. I just love that game. Yeah, it was amazing game. I mean, Enslaved was awesome, and yeah, but DMC was amazing. Yeah, and it's funny because you like you said, you just wouldn't think that outside of Japan you would have a chance to work on that kind of IP. So.
No, yeah, it was really cool. So then, yeah, after the extra 3 months, I got hired along with another of the interns, and yeah. Went through the whole production of, mostly I went through production on Enslaved, so I got to see the whole process of putting the game together as like a junior, and then I moved on to DMC. So it was, those are like really great experiences.
Yeah, those are some those are some great games to cut your teeth on, right? Introduction to the industry.
I've been very fortunate.
Oh, that's cool. And then I guess so you kind of, I guess you started at Ninja Theory, and that's kind of been your home ever since.
Yeah, like I don't know any different.
How far was Ninja? Like how far was Sheffield from like where you were?
It's like I think it's like 130 miles. It's basically 2 hours in a car.
Okay.
Fairly, 2 hour car ride.
Yeah. Pretty close, all things considered.
I mean, England's pretty small, I mean, compared to the US. So.
No, that's the whole internship thing. That's really interesting. It's like because it went from 7 interns to 2 that got hired, right?
Yeah, and actually the thing is, like, that kind of internship is so unheard of. Like it was a paid internship as well, which is just like everything I'd learned up until that point, you know, if you wanted to be an intern, you had to go and work for free, or you needed to volunteer at a company, or like, you know, you read about I've read all about the VFX stories of, you know, you have like runners and things who just make the coffee and they do things. And then, you know, in after hours, they spend some time in Maya, like, you know, learning to animate and stuff. And then they get hired. And then, you know, I kind of thought that, you know, this was like a viable option or path. And I never thought that you would be paid to be an intern. It's like, wow, this is really good.
And it sounds like they kind of just threw everyone into the fire and just you know, you do it or you sink or swim kind of thing. And you guys doing some heavy production work. Yeah.
I mean, we immediately just started working on the game. I mean, even as interns, we were doing work for the game. Like they didn't just give us any arbitrary thing to do to just learn animation. Like we were creating assets.